Welcome to Refused Flank, a wargaming podcast exploring the intersection of competitive excellence and narrative storytelling potential. Hey, this is Cam and I'm here with John. We're back for another episode of Refused Flank, and this week we're going to talk a little bit about Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, but specifically the Battle Company's version thereof. John and I grew up together playing war games throughout high school, and we live far apart now, but when we get together, we still try to get some games in. So we played a lot of Battle Companies when we were kids. That was one of our favorite go-to things, and the two of us and my brother played a lot of Battle Companies. We did several campaigns, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was always a good time, but we decided you're visiting this week, so we would do a little mini campaign for Battle Companies, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we structured that and went about that later. But John, for our listeners who maybe haven't played Battle Companies, you want to just give us a little bit of the lowdown on what it is, how it works, what is different between that and normal strategy battle game?
Sure. So, to be clear, we played the community edition of Battle Companies. You can find it free online. All the rules are readily available as an easy download from a Google Drive. You search it, you'll find it. What makes it different from the normal game? You'll start with a small group of people, depending on the company you choose. I played as the Corsairs of Umbar, whereas Cam played as the Dwarves.
You have Durin's folk, I think, specifically, because now there's a variety. You can be like Iron Hills Dwarves or this, that, or the other thing. So Durin's folk, I think, are more the like Moria Dwarves.
Yes, that is true. I don't have any good armies that I play as, so I don't remember that, but good point. At any rate, you have a prescribed number of guys you'll start with, somewhere from 5 to 9, depending on what army you pick. Goblins have 9 because they're really bad individually. 3 of them then promote to be heroes automatically. You give them 1 might, 1 will, and 1 fate, and then they will start down a path of, and they're all named after the different special heroic actions you can choose. So, for example, the path of shoot for heroic shoot, or the path of challenge for heroic challenge, things like that. As your guys fight through the games, they will gain experience for doing things related to the objectives or killing other models, being the MVP at the end of the game. As they get experience, they'll level up and can either promote to become heroes if they're not a hero, or if they are a hero, they will then gain special rules, abilities, increased attacks and wounds as you go along. So when you start out, your force is very small and weak.
Yeah, they're basically just normal warriors. I don't think most of them come with any sort of like upgraded or more elite version of a warrior. Right?
Very few. If they are, there's one, and it's usually forced to be your main leader. Granted, you'd pick it to be your main leader anyway, probably.
So you start out in a normal game pretty low powered, because you just have, like, for example, it might be like normal men of Minas Tirith, but 1 of them or 3 of them have might, will, and fate.
Yes.
But otherwise they're just totally normal, 1 wound, 1 attack.
Yep. To put it in perspective, a person needs to level up around 5 to 7 times to become equal to a captain of their respective race.
Yeah.
So it takes a little while, but then you can get different rules, more attacks, you can become very specialized at a certain thing, and your characters really get to take on some flavor and feel and kind of build their own personality as you go through. You can also recruit more guys, though most battle companies are capped at either 12 or 15 models, depending on how elite the normal dudes are.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that system, and it's pretty, you get influence is the resource that you use for that, and you get that for playing in a battle, even if you don't win, so you're always getting some, which is nice. But people can definitely die. It's not too bad. It was just a double 1 that you actually just straight up die? Or no, it's 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, 2 or 3. So you roll 2 dice, and you add them together. For normal warriors, on a 2 or a 3, they die. 4 and 5, they miss the next game. Anything else, they're fine. If you roll 12s, they get extra experience.
Yeah,
they've learned from it.
Yes, and that's like a post-game thing that happens if they get knocked out during the game. But so it's not too bad, but you are likely to lose some guys eventually, and so being able to replace them is nice or grow your force a little bit. But the cap on it, I think, helps keep things from getting out of control and helps it stay that smaller
skirmish
warband level.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was my first warband level skirmish campaign type game I played. Obviously, Mordheim came before this, and I'm sure there were others similar to that before this. This was, of course, put out originally by Games Workshop. The strategy battle game is from Games Workshop. So that's all sort of in that same vein, I think, that grew out of Mordheim. So I think people who played Mordheim would find a lot of similarities to how some of this works. So if you like that kind of game and you haven't tried this one, I think it's nice. I think probably it's obviously based now on the latest edition of the basic strategy battle game rules. And I think some of those things have been improved since the original like Mordheim era of rules. But I don't have a lot of experience with Mordheim, so I don't want to spend too much time comparing these two things because I don't think we necessarily need to. But
I've played a couple games of Mordheim.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a great game. It does some other things with heroes leveling up in their abilities a little differently, and in some cases I think maybe a little better than the Lord of the Rings one. The big advantage I think the Lord of the Rings one has is in Mordheim, when two guys fight, they're now stuck together. Whereas in the Lord of the Rings, you fight, even if I don't kill you, you back away from me, we could run away next turn. The fights can range all over the battlefield.
Yeah.
For example, in our one today, I was trying to run an objective off the table. So if I won priority for the turn and got to move first, I would move away, and then I'd get caught again. But the
or
fight,
not, because I'm dwarves and I only go 5.
well, that's true. For the couple times I did manage to actually get away for a little bit, the fights would move around the battlefield rather than being stuck in one place.
That's interesting, yeah. I think a dynamic ability to keep the battlefield moving is important in games like this, because I think it can be kind of boring if once you run into each other, you're kind of just there the rest of the game.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, we're not going to go into too much detail about just how the game itself works. There's plenty of videos out there, I'm sure, on YouTube that you can look up how to play strategy battle game or whatever. And I think it's Conquest Creations maybe is a YouTube channel that has a bunch of battle reports and stuff. So you can check those out. But yeah, we just wanted to talk a little bit about this mode of play in general, because we really enjoy it and have had some good experiences with it, but then also a little bit more about the specific campaign that we put together for this. But before we get into that, I guess, what are some of your favorite features of Battle Companies?
Compared to the main game? Or
other war games in general? Just why play Battle Companies?
Sure. I think having a loose, you could strengthen the story if you wanted to, but a loose story that you track over time gives a little bit more meaning to a game rather than just this one standalone win-at-all-costs event.
Yeah.
For example, in Battle Companies, if you can choose to have your company withdraw at any point in the game, your opponent then counts as gaining all of the objectives and whatnot, because you're no longer there to restrict them. But if you go, hey, I'm not winning this, and I don't want to risk my guys getting injured and dying when I know they're not going to do anything that gets experience for them anyway, you can do that, and there's a reason to do it, rather than fight to the last man, because why not?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of wargaming scenarios fall into that pitfall of fighting to the death for no reason, which it seems, in my at least cursory understanding of military history, very abnormal. Usually an army is going to withdraw if it's not doing well before it's completely wiped out. And you're right, in a campaign setting like this, having a reason to do it where then you're not making as many injury rolls and things like that actually can make a pretty big difference, even if your opponent is getting more influence from the win. I think it's especially nice when you're doing maybe a longer than 3-game campaign like our mini one here, but also multiple players instead of just a 2-player campaign, because withdrawing against especially a stronger enemy could be smart, because then maybe in your next game you're going against somebody who's more on par or weaker than you, and then there's a little bit more ebb and flow to how that happens as well.
To be clear, since we mentioned stronger versus less, the game does have a couple catch-up mechanics built in to help new or underpowered battle companies fight in the games they're in, but then also catch up in their strength.
Yeah, and one of those things is rerolls, which can be really helpful, I think, in a game like this, where a lot of times you're rolling 1 or 2 dice for a guy to do a thing. And because it's a Games Workshop game, you're rolling to hit, you're rolling to wound, there's this multi-stage thing. So getting a reroll can be really nice to help alleviate some of that luck situation.
I roll a 1, you roll a 2. Okay, well, I'll use a reroll since I have a decent chance at beating a 2.
Exactly. So I think that's a pretty elegant way to help what's always a problem in campaign games, which is where there can be this snowball effect of one side getting stronger the more that they win, but getting those rerolls and other benefits, which scales, I think you just mentioned, based on how different your warband rating is. That's one thing that's a little maybe annoying about Battle Companies, is having to keep calculating your warband rating, because I feel like there's so many different things to add up. I just wish there was a way that was easier for me to track like what costs what. I think like if you're using a roster like we are, writing it down and maybe having a way to track that, I'm sure there's ways that could make it easier than I did at this time. But
so one of the community edition Battle Companies is now on second edition or beta, or I don't exactly remember what they're calling it. But one of the changes they've made is with how points are added to models, you can pretty much look across and everything except an attack or a wound just adds 5 points. So it's the base cost of your dude and then 5 points for everything and 10 for every extra attack or wound, which does make it a lot easier than past editions where point values were a little all over the place and their own war gear could change in value. And now you've got the base model that's not just 9, now he's 14 because his old 1 point upgrade's now a 5 point upgrade and his shield suddenly only costs 4 points.
Yeah. There was, last time I played Battle Companies, which was a few years ago now, man, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, there was an online Battle Company manager that we were using that was really nice, and you could put all this stuff in and it would calculate. I don't know if that's probably, if it's still current, is based on the normal one, not the community edition, but...
So one of those does exist. I have gone to the website and looked at it, and I personally decided I'm very happy just writing things down.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy on the fly to start marking off experience and things like that, rather than go and click the person and going to a different person. So I think it is there for people who like that. I like writing stuff by hand. I'm used to it.
There is something nice about the tactile nature of that. Maybe it's just nostalgia speaking.
That could be.
I do like it. I agree.
Admittedly, though, once you've written and erased something so many times that you're not quite sure what number it is, then the digital does have a distinct advantage.
Yeah, maybe you could do a combo of both, is during a day of playing, keep it on paper, then at the end of the day, go update the electronic to store it between the next time, then you can get new paper.
And then it'll tell you your point values.
Right, and that would be, for me, the main benefit of doing that is less calculations. But
yes.
I do really like the scale of Battle Companies in terms of number of models, and from my personal perspective, I think that the mechanics in strategy battle game fit this scale of battle a little bit better. I think when you get to too many points in the normal game, it can start feeling a little bit like, why am I doing all these guys separately? Because it's a model by model basis, even in the larger game. And so I think for me, it's just the mechanics and the gameplay really come together when you have this 8 to 15 model count kind of situation.
You also can have different battlefields with different objectives where your forces are spread out over the whole table rather than fighting together as a single platoon.
Yeah.
There are missions where that happens, but you get a variety of it as opposed to my battle line hits your battle line, which is mostly what happens in the Lord of the Rings one. And then you have the little back and forth fights and how that go, which is kind of interesting, but not the same as taking over a whole table.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, there was one of our games that we played this week that we really only used like a sixth of the table just because of the weird scenario that came up. But the other two, we ended up using quite a bit of it, which is surprising on a 4x4 with so few models that we still kind of used a good amount of the table, which is nice to see. And speaking of the tables, I have been playing a lot of, obviously, if you've been listening to the podcast, playing a lot of like army games, 40K, fantasy, things like that. And so I'm not used to having such dense terrain anymore. And so it was a joy to go back to being able to have just a ton of terrain on the table and be interacting with it a lot more rather than just mostly avoiding it. So that, I like that about this as well.
Yeah, it is very nice for what I'll call non-standard terrain. The last that I've played a 40K is everything's very standardized and it's well-defined and very blocky, whereas this game allows for more true shapes so things can have curves to them and be in all sorts of different locations and places.
Yeah, and then you can really just build a battlefield that looks like a real place rather than it feeling like a first-person shooter arena map or something.
Yes.
Which I appreciate. That's half of why I do wargaming is the spectacle of it. You kind of pointed this out a little bit of the idea of with a campaign system having more of the story unfolding, and I think the way that progression works, which again, I'm not saying this is unique to this specific skirmish campaign system, but systems like this, just being able to see the stories unfold of your characters as they get better and grow and then do cool things in the battle is really fun. One of the mechanics is picking an MVP for your opponent at the end of a game, and that'll award additional experience. And so you're always on the lookout trying to like pay attention for like what cool things are actually happening narratively. Maybe it gives you a little bit of an incentive to try to do something a little risky but really cool that like if it works, this would be awesome. But then people just take on more of a persona and character as it unfolds, and it's not just Dwarf Warrior 1, but it's like, oh, I remember, yeah, Ulf was the guy that did this, and he like ran up and took out that guy, and Rabidash was the one who held off the wizard and killed him and then fought off Sven so they couldn't get to the guy, things like that. I think just adds so much more to the experience for me, and I think help me focus on the narrative and a little less on just the mechanics of like, how can I min-max what's happening right now? So I love just seeing those stories unfold over the course of a campaign. And I think that worked even in this mini 3-game campaign. Some of our characters started to do some things and become interesting, and that was really cool to see.
One of the other things, and this becomes much more playgroup dependent, it's not written into the official rules, but that we had growing up is we had a couple games or at different times where two guys would fight each other and fight each other and fight each other, and they'd spend the entire game fighting each other and dueling, and neither could kill the other. One would win, but he wouldn't die, and the other would win, but not, and the other guy wouldn't die, and they'd go back and forth. We then kind of house rules that, all right, in future battles, these two have to, if they see each other, they have to run at each other and fight until somebody eventually dies in the battle. Now, they don't have to die in the post sequence and be out forever, but if they both lived through the battle, the next battle, they had to finish what they started. Yeah. Things like that can be added in very easily and are flavorful, and it just kind of adds a level of fun and variety to the game that you don't have in the normal one. But again, that is very much opponent and playgroup dependent.
Yeah, I would agree on that. So you want to find the right group of people that are going to get into that if that's what you're looking for. But what you're describing, I think, is what I would call like emergent storytelling, where you can't design that into the system. That only will come out of what you're doing. And I like that with having a little bit looser of a campaign system lets those things happen. And I like that we kind of did a combo we had for this mini campaign, sort of this idea of this dwarven treasure hunting company coming out of Mirkwood and going towards the southeast to try to look for treasure and running into this band of pirates in Haradrim. And so we had that in mind of sort of, that's the narrative scaffolding of the campaign. But then within that, now stories can come up and out of that as this is unfolding, as it's happening. And I think that's really exciting to see those things just emerge out of the experience as you're playing.
The Community Edition does have actual campaigns you can play through. I think some of them even have like maps with territories that you can take over, kind of a Dawn of War style, for lack of a better term. I have not looked at those in much depth. I kind of went, oh, that's neat, and moved on because I'm not playing in one of those at the moment.
Yeah.
But for those who like more of a true take over the world campaign, those do exist for this.
Nice. I guess having like massive land ownership, territory control at this scale of warband feels a little weird. We took over Rohan, the 12 of us.
I think you scale it a little differently to be like you took over neighborhoods of a city.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know exactly how that works, but that's how I would frame it mentally.
That makes more sense.
Planet-wide conquest.
Yeah. I really like the variety of missions that are in at least the community edition. I'm not super familiar with the current like official edition and how much of those missions are just the same. But there's so many different missions, which is really cool just to have variety. But some of them are very different. Like there's one where there's a camp that's being defended by NPC orcs or something like that. And there's another one where both parties are trying to fight off a bunch of wargs that are attacking, and you're getting points for killing wargs, which is just super different and fun.
That one's fun because you're sort of considered friends with your opponent to where you can't actively harm them, but if you happen to harm them by shooting into the combat and they get hit, so the good guy, normally in the game, good guys like normal humans, dwarves, and elves can't shoot if they risk killing their friend. Well, because you're now allied with somebody else, they're not really your friends, so you can start shooting into combats finally, which is a fun thing with that. But yes, it's a race to see who can kill the most wargs.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of fun one. That one, in the last time I did this, it was actually very deadly at low levels because wargs are actually pretty strong. And so that was fun. We like rolled it up. We're like, oh, this is going to be a fun one. And then it actually was this terrifying fight to the death. We're like, oh, we're getting overrun by wargs.
You bring up a good point, though. The game also has, for some scenarios, like the warg one, a thing built in where, oh, your battle companies are all high-powered. The wargs now count as cavalry for charging. So if you lose the fight, you're knocked prone and trapped.
Yes.
Which now makes them way more of a threat, even.
Yeah. And since you brought that up, I think that's just another thing I like about this system that I think works well at, again, this scale of battle is little things like being able to be knocked prone, being trapped, climbing, swimming, which we'll probably be publishing the battle report of our last battle of the campaign after this episode, so we won't give away too much, but some swimming was involved in the last battle, which was exciting. And so I love all those little things that are like too crunchy to bother with in a larger army game sometimes, where it's like, okay, well, I want to send all 10 of these guys up the wall, so I'm going to roll 10 climb tests. Like, that just seems pedantic at that point.
However, we have done that.
Exactly, yeah. Back in the day, I remember sending goblins up a tower, you know, they're just all trying to climb. But that's all really cool, and so I love having the crunch of that. And at this scale, it doesn't feel overbearing at all, but adds all of those fun little moments of, I think in one of our earlier games, I had Dwarf Ranger with a climbing rope. He was able to like climb up a ruin and then leave the rope there for another guy to climb up after him, and they were able to then circle around and get behind some of your guys.
Yeah, that was your coolest moment of the game.
Yeah, I think you picked him for the MVP because of that. Yeah, so I just love those little moments that the rules provide detail enough to simulate. But yeah, so love all the variety that's in the missions that the rules kind of help create, those sorts of things, yeah.
One other thing that I'll point out, and this was the first I've played with anybody on the path of channeling. You had a wizard.
Yes.
And what I would call more utility spells that in the normal game you just never see unless you take Gandalf, Saruman, or the Witch King, basically. Mm-hmm. And even then, you're probably just try to kill the person. Here, the more utility spells actually matter.
Yeah.
So you put one of them to very good use where you're not dead, but the side effect of it is very powerful.
Yeah.
And what you actually
prone,
cared about. Yeah, knocked prone.
Yeah, and then the one you start with, the first time you have a hero choose the path of channeling and they become a wizard, they automatically get Wither, which I messed up at the beginning of our campaign to devastating effect to you because I thought it was way better than it really was.
I thought it was just Black Dart renamed.
That's what I thought it was too, but I was wrong. But it just reduces the enemy's strength by 1, but that's permanent for the rest of the battle. And at this level of game could be huge. If you knock a hero from 4 down to 3 and now they're wounding on 6s instead of 5s, that could be a big deal. I also...
We played it before as if it just did a wound.
Yeah, which is obviously really bad. I did it in the last battle have a new spell, Enchant Weapon or something, Enchanted Blades, which lets you reroll wounds, I think, which would be really good. I didn't end up getting to use it because it just wasn't in a situation in the last battle that it would have been good. But if you kept him near your hero that's rolling 3 attacks or whatever, now that's actually a really good utility spell, again, at this scale where 3 attacks is a huge deal.
It's the most you can get.
Yeah. So that's really fun as well. I think, speaking of heroes and them leveling up and kind of becoming unique, I remember another thing we did as kids was taking our heroes from battle companies, and because you can kind of point them out, then using them in the normal game, which always felt really cool. Like, oh, they've been out on their adventures, but now there's a battle happening. They've been called up to come lead the army.
Fair warning, though, that level of bookkeeping was a lot to try and figure out, wait, is he in my normal army or is he in my battle company? Do I need to track his experience? Oh, wait, let me get my battle company person to kill this person so I get credit for it. It does add a fair bit of bookkeeping that you have to keep track of, just as a warning.
Yeah, I guess if you didn't want to do that, you could just use them in a bigger battle and not count it for experience or anything like that, and just say, for this battle, they're just locked in as their person. But since you're just creating, again, these custom characters, it just, is really cool and, again, emergent. You don't have a ton of control over what upgrades you get, but because you're choosing a path, they're pretty much all things you'd want for how you're building them, and you get to roll twice and pick the one that you want.
Correct.
So usually you're able to customize them a little bit, but you can't just, say, I'm going to take 3 attacks right away. You have to roll those still. And so you actually get a pretty, I think, wide variety of difference even between heroes on the same path, which I think is cool.
Yes. And there's also no, I'll give an exception to this after I say this, there's no definitive best path for each person.
Yeah.
For example, I'm playing the Corsair Pirates. My leader doesn't wear any armor, but has a decent, he's good in combat. Mm-hmm. There's several different paths I can put him on that shape him in different ways, but are all still geared towards person who's charging into combat.
Right.
The exception to that, ranged specialists, you have the path of shoot or the path of accuracy. Mm-hmm. And if you have a crossbow, it seems like accuracy is far better because most things there trigger off of not moving.
Which
and with a crossbow, you already want to not move.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So that's something I think can feel like a little bit of complexity getting into it, is feeling like, do I have to read through all these different special path progressions to figure out which one is actually going to be good and work? But I would say if you're just starting out, again, because you start out pretty low powered, I wouldn't overthink it. And I would just pick something that sounds cool. And again, nothing's bad. So it's more just a matter of, because all of them are going to give you stat increases and things like that. So yeah, I think it's pretty lenient as far as that goes. I don't think you're going to...
I would say that they broadly fit into, also, I guess, 4 categories. You have the caster, who's path of channeling, that's its own thing.
Yep.
You have the 2 shooting ones, path of shoot, path of accuracy. And then the other ones are split between what I'll say are frontline combat and support roles. So path of defense, strike, and strength in combat are kind of frontline. These guys are charging in. You want them to go pound somebody to death characters. And then like resolve, move, march, there's something that I'm missing, are kind of like utility heroes where they can fight in combat, they can do other things, but their abilities are more around manipulating the battlefield or helping
or
friends.
Thing to get stuff. Like, so that helped me a lot earlier in our campaign, having somebody on the path of march, which I thought would be useful because dwarves have only a 5-inch move as opposed to 6 like most people in the game. And marching, when you call a heroic march, you get an extra 3 inches to your move, and you can say, with me, and everyone within 6 inches also gets that.
And it straight up won you a game.
It did, yeah. So that ended up being very helpful, but that's the type of thing that as a support character, you can be doing those to then affect other people in your army rather than it being mostly just for powering up the hero.
Yes.
Which I think is cool. I think, again, the fact that you start with 3 heroes and that you can get more as you go, I think is just a really cool way to be able to try a bunch of different of those things to get some of those synergies working together so you could have some support guys, some fighty guys, and feel like they're all contributing and doing their own thing well is really cool. So, I mean, in my company for this campaign had Harold, the dwarf ranger, who eventually got up to hitting on 2+, which feels great and is a lot of fun. Got a special ability that gives him a free might point specifically for shooting attacks, which is super cool. And now he's starting to feel like this really heroic, almost Legolas level archer, which is fun. So things like that, yeah. Just really cool. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the campaign itself and the way we structured that. So you're only here for a couple days, but we wanted to try to do some sort of complete thing. Playing a one-off battle companies just doesn't really scratch the itch. And just even for the point you said earlier of why not just fight to the death if it's the last game, because then I don't need to worry about injury rolls or anything. And so if you play multiple games, now all of a sudden you're actually thinking about that. Love that. So doing this little 3-game mini campaign, I think, helped scratch the itch enough. But talk a little bit about the way that we sort of jump-started things so that we weren't just starting at that scratch, really low power level.
So to put it in perspective, a brand new battle company ends up with a point value of, I think, around 80 when you add everything up. Your heroes have nothing other than their 1 might, 1 will, 1 fate, and you have 3 of them. And then, you've started them on a path, but they haven't even taken their first step. So
they gain the potentially special heroic action that's associated with it, but they don't actually get an advancement.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we went through and looked at it and said, well, if a normal captain, to take a normal warrior and make him into a captain, takes 7-ish upgrades, assuming that you were specifically picking to make it a captain, we'll take our main hero, give him 10 upgrades, take our second hero, give him 7, our third hero, give him 5, and then we'll take one random, or not random, we could pick, but one more person, promote them into a hero, and give them, I think we said 3 levels of advancement.
Yeah.
So we had...
And then we also allowed that guy to be promoted as well. So
yes.
He would have leveled up, it's a weird thing where you get promoted from a sort of normal warrior type to an elite warrior type, and that's different than becoming a hero.
Yes, so I had a Corsair guy with a bow convert into a Arbalester, so with the crossbow and the giant Pavis shield, and then he became my fourth hero and could start on a path. That allowed, and then we rolled for all of the upgrades and did the choosing, roll 2 times, pick the one you want.
Yeah.
And that allowed our characters to take on some flavor and take on some power.
Yeah, and feel like we were a little later in a campaign, like the last 3 games of a campaign rather than the first 3 games of a campaign.
Yeah, or more to the middle at least.
Yeah.
Our last campaigns we played growing up, we had people with, I think James and I, you might have gone off to college, but he and I had dudes with 20 plus upgrades.
Nice.
I mean, they were just ridiculous.
Maxing things out at that point.
That was fun. They could do some wild stuff. But yeah, so we did that to jumpstart it. We also said that all experience gained would count as double because, playing now these 3 games, it'd be more like we played 6 from an experience perspective.
Right, so we were actually still going to get a level up or 2 in the course of it.
I think you had one guy level up twice in the same game. So that helped a lot. And I think that's about all it took to jumpstart it. So if you wanted
we did also give 10 influence for we said we can't use it on reinforcements, but we can buy some.
You got that for your battle company being a lower starting value than mine.
Oh, I thought we both took 10 influence.
No.
Oh, man. All right, well.
That's why I never had any command support or anything.
Now I understand why you said you couldn't afford it.
Yes.
All right, now I'm tracking.
Maybe I should have...
I'm wondering now if that was a good choice, because it felt like that was a lot of extra stuff I got.
I don't think you were supposed to have 10, were you? Anyway, you did. Things to pay attention to next time.
Yes, I guess this is what happens when you plan something via text the day before the trip happens.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that was a really good way, and we would recommend it if you want to do a short. I think, honestly, if you just got together on a Saturday and had all day with a group, you could totally do a 3-game campaign like this if everyone had done all that advancement stuff and built their warband beforehand. Because yesterday we did 2 games in just the afternoon, really.
Each game, once you kind of know what you're doing, if you're not trying to film it, each game and then the subsequent bookkeeping after the game takes about an hour.
Yeah, and it certainly depends on the scenario, but I would say definitely no more than 2 hours per game.
One point I will add to that, these scenarios where you're not trying to get off the board, you probably want to think about adding in turn limits to prevent endless posturing and the better shooting army sitting back and just trying to shoot people and running away because the win condition is somebody's broken and you only have to be standing next to the objectives then. Whereas several that we played, actually all of them,
you had to get somewhere.
You had to get off the board. You had to grab a thing and get off the board, or run past people, or do something. And so you were already incentivized to move. Whereas some of them you're incentivized to be very slow and cagey. And if you like that, that's fine. But if you have kind of uneven battle companies, that exacerbates the problem.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree with that. So, and some of that maybe if you're going to plan this sort of a mini campaign, especially if you think you're going to do it as sort of a little event with a group of friends on a weekend or something like that, which I think would be great, would highly recommend. Maybe just paying attention to which scenarios you pick as options would be good, and just don't use some that might create those types of situations might be a good idea. But that leads into then sort of how we approach this, which there's all these cool scenarios. We could have just done random, but I wanted there to be a little bit more of a structured narrative. So like I mentioned earlier, we did this general idea of a dwarven treasure hunting company going towards the southeast to try to find some treasure. So we decided we would do this as sort of a, I believe it's what people call a ladder campaign. So you start in the middle, and then one side's trying to push up, the other side's trying to push down. And so depending on who wins, you go one way or the other. It wasn't a true ladder campaign because really in only 3 battles, we weren't going to be able to like push back and forth at all. But what we decided was whoever won the first battle, which was sort of just a, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But would then decide what the rest of the next two battles would either be back towards the dwarves' homeland or closer to the treasure. So that was sort of the idea. If it was the Haradrim Corsairs win, they would then go fight something more in Mirkwood, and then eventually we said the final battle would be, I think there's one called Defend the Gate or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So it'd be at the Dwarf Hold, and that would be like a cool final battle there. If we were pushing the other way, we weren't exactly sure what it was going to be, but something in between the edge of the woods and the treasure, and then the last one, there's a number of scenarios that would work for finding treasure.
Yes.
So we would pick one of those. And then we decided
That's what ended up happening, by the way.
Yes, so the dwarves did kind of push through, but we decided that structurally, if one side won the first battle and then the other side won the second battle, instead of just pushing back in like a traditional ladder campaign to the first battle, we would just default to the fight the warg scenario, because that would be fun. And it's sort of like, well, we were fighting and now we're kind of caught out in the wilderness and wargs are attacking. And
we don't often get to put the hill in the middle of the battlefield.
Yes, which would have been a cool opportunity for that. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so maybe next time. We'll just do that battle for fun. But
I'll say unfortunately. You can't say that. You won.
Yeah, that's true.
You won the two battles to force this last one, so...
so that is what happened. So we started with a pack mule thing. So it was the idea that the dwarves are bringing all of their stuff out of the woods heading on their journey. So I had 5 different pack animals, and I had to trek all the way across the 4-foot board, which initially seemed very difficult as dwarves, moving only 5 inches. But since I had that heroic march guy and he had rolled the special rule where he gets a free heroic march if I have priority, that made a huge difference. That made it certainly possible. So I just started trucking across the board at 8 inches a turn.
Maybe the ponies shouldn't have been able to benefit from the march.
I tried to tell you,
well, didn't they move 8 inches anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was moving.
So it was only
11.
like the last turn where they got off, where you had already destroyed me at that point anyways. I think I lost almost every fight that I was in.
You killed quite a few people that time, I think. And you got 2 of the ponies.
Yeah, and then died immediately.
But that was a fun one. I think in replaying it, you talked a little bit about maybe you would have positioned differently,
yes,
maybe further away to just get on the road and then block the road more, rather than starting halfway up. But that was a really fun one, and again, pretty thematic. It felt like it fit the narrative that we were going for with that. And I think you did a good job of, you got to the road and you caused some roadblocks for me where you, with some really good choices on priority or calling a heroic move and things, got stuff locked down so that people were stuck around each other, and there were turns where I couldn't really move the pack animals because of how I had tried to surround them to protect them, but that just meant I blocked them in as well. So that one was fun. I feel like there was some back and forth on that one. That there was at least a moment where it felt like it could still go either way if you had gotten priority and gotten into combat and killed a couple more pack animals. That could have been it.
Yeah, I had a point where I thought, like, this is in my favor.
Yeah.
And I lost, like, every fight that turn.
Yeah, that
3 guys died, and I went, never mind. But that's how wargaming goes. That's part of the fun.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing I like about skirmish games in general, but this being one of them, is that when a game is short, it doesn't feel as bad when the luck doesn't go your way, because it's going to be over soon and you're going to do the next one. But the next one then we decided to do, was it called Breakthrough?
I think so.
And so whatever the name was, the idea being that you're trying to hold the line, I have to get across the board and see what we can make happen that way. So that was the idea of, again, we're halfway to the treasure. You failed to stop our initial advance, but now you have another chance to stop us. And so we did that. And that was the one where we ended up kind of only using a sliver of the board.
Tiny
because
edge of the board.
I made you deploy first after winning the priority. Or no, I think you had to deploy first in that one.
Yeah, I had to
as
deploy
the defender.
first, yes.
And so you kind of spread out a little bit, and then I just decided to do a refused flank and put everybody on one side to mean that your guys would be coming in piecemeal to stop me. And so then ended up, just because of that, being able to kind of overwhelm each individual part of your army as it came in. And so was able to win that way. That one I think was less interesting than the first one, but I think there was still a little bit of ebb and flow that, again, me going up and over that ruin and things like that was fun.
I made a bad decision on the first turn. Instead of trying to like kind of hopefully block you in and then move in with everybody, I should have just kept everyone in the center and just ran them back. So that way I can have my whole group cut off your whole group. Or if you split up, I could then split up afterwards. I made the mistake of splitting up too soon.
Yeah, I think that
cost the game.
Hedging your bets and just deploying in the middle would have been a better choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the second battle.
I hedged my bets. I just calculated wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, so that set us up for the final battle, which again, we're not going to talk too much about because we're going to be putting out a battle report for that. Hopefully, assuming it all cuts together fine. But I think we got good stuff. And that was the treasure, which, what was the name of the scenario? Do you remember?
I will remember in just a second after I pull it up.
But essentially, there's a number of objectives on the board that all could have treasure. They're each worth victory points. We decided they all are sort of minor treasure, but one of them is the special artifact. And so whoever finds that one has to carry it off the board.
Relic of Ages Past was the scenario.
Yes. And so it sort of plays out like a mini Ring of Power, because when you find the artifact, you have to start taking a test at the beginning of every turn. And if you fail on a 1, then it takes over your brain and you are transfixed. You can't move or activate for the turn. And so that was a fun little kind of crazy thing, because I think a downside to scenarios like this, I've played other ones like this before in other games, is sometimes the first person to find the thing then just has a runaway victory because they can just run off the board that's closest to them. But since you have the possibility of being transfixed and you just don't know if it's going to happen, now that throws a wrench in the works of what you might choose to do. Also, I think you had mentioned this before, but the deployment, you roll randomly for each person, and they may not arrive if you roll a 1, or they might come out on different table edges. And so I think getting everybody spread out like that helps alleviate a little bit of the possibility of a runaway victory just by happening to find the thing under the first thing you looked under that nobody else was near and is close to a table edge or something like that. So I think that it works pretty well, the scenario, as far as that goes. But this felt like, okay, this is the treasure. This is where the map the dwarves had led. So we're showing up here, and you're now making your last-ditch effort to stop us from getting the treasure, or I guess maybe just following us along to try to get the treasure for yourself.
So one of the things that played out, and because this is the start of what will be that video, I don't feel bad about spoiling it. Going into it, there were 6 objectives that could have been the relic. One of them, we didn't know which was the relic. However, because you had won the last battle so convincingly, you got to take 2 of the secret objective markers and look at them and see if they were it or if they weren't. And I left the room for that, so I couldn't tell. And then, unfortunately, you won the priority roll and made me deploy first. So I had to basically assume that all of them could be it, and I had to deploy across, and you'll see it's spread out across the whole battlefield. And then you deploy after me and put everybody onto half of the battlefield.
One side,
one side of the battlefield. It's like, okay, that's not good.
Yeah. That's another example, I think, of just a little house rule-y things you can come up with in this type of a campaign where you thought of that like, oh, that makes sense narratively as a reward you would get for how you've done in the campaign so far. Maybe it's a little powerful in this type of a situation, but I think those things are fun. I think especially for mini campaigns, the stakes are pretty low, especially if you're playing it over a couple days like we did. And so I think that can be fun. I think going into things like this with that attitude of let's do something cool and see what cool stories happen from it, while of course playing to still try to win within those constraints, just makes for a much more enjoyable experience. Because then, even that example of you saying to me, you should get this reward, like, I just love that. I think everybody should try to be that person when you're wargaming, especially in a narrative campaign setting, is look for the other cool things you can suggest for other people to get because it's cool. And I think that's a good way to structure things.
A lot of the scenarios do have rewards baked in. So if we were to play again, actually it wouldn't matter because, well, I won't spoil why it won't matter. But it won't matter because we're not playing another mission in this. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these scenarios do have rewards for winning other than just you win.
Oh, okay.
Or like a model holding an objective gets a thing.
Okay, like what?
Well, here, for this one, I'll just do the Relic of Ages Past. It has a couple, I think. So this one has 2 things. The underdog, the player, so the person with the lower rated battle company, automatically wins the roll for choosing the priority roll in the first turn.
Okay.
Which I guess isn't... Actually, that would be diplomacy. We didn't do that. That would have helped me immensely.
It sure would have.
That would have been rather odd. So that's why I didn't do it. It's like, well, you're supposed to be advantaged here, not me. So he ignored that. But then the other one is the model in possession of the relic at the end of the game gains the benefit of the Fortify Spirit magical power in their next game, even if they have no will remaining.
Oh, cool.
Other ones let you give you some influence in picking the next scenario. So if you roll randomly, you can either plus or minus by 1 the scenario, so you have some agency in choosing the next battle. Mm-hmm. Others give different rewards. I think some of them even let you take like a roll on a path that you're not on for a hero.
Fun. Okay. Yeah, that's super cool. I would love to maybe go ahead.
So from when we were growing up, we had a list of all sorts of additional stuff
I remember
that we added in because we thought this would all be fun, which was mostly extra magical weapons that did even more nonsensical things.
Yeah, I remember James came up with like camp followers. You could hire like a blacksmith and potion maker and things like that. Cook, I think, was one of them to keep your courage up or something.
So oddly enough, in the community edition of the game, some of those things, albeit modified a little bit, do exist.
Oh, wow.
So like you spent the influence to buy your healing herbs.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like the healer that we used to buy. The difference is you have to live to the end of the scenario to still use it.
Right. Yeah. So I think these types of things are ripe for all that kind of house ruling, especially within a group of people who know each other and game together kind of a thing. And I think that can create a lot of fun stories to tell. So I thought it was really fun. It was a really satisfying little mini campaign. Again, I would highly recommend that anyone else give it a try as well. I'm sure this type of an approach would work for most similar types of character progression, skirmish campaign systems like this. So if you do try that, let us know in the comments how it has gone for you or how it goes for you if you try it later than listening to this. But yeah, any final thoughts, John?
I'll say personally, so I play a little bit of Age of Sigmar. I've played 40K over several editions, including some competitive tournament settings, as well as the full Lord of the Rings game and a handful of other games here and there. Battle Companies is my favorite tabletop war game. It's my favorite way to play. I love the skirmish. I love how it feels. This is, in my opinion, if I was to only pick one game and play it, this would be it.
Nice. I don't know if I would go that far yet, but it's definitely up there for me.
What else makes the list for you?
Relic Blade is really fun. Really enjoy that. Yeah, I think you would enjoy that. It's a similar vibe, just totally different mechanics, and much smaller. It's like 3 to 5 guys, something like that. But that has a lot of the same benefits of this, has some campaign systems, although a little less character progression. So I think like on that side of things, I like this better because you have more of that character progression built in. I think in Relic Blade, it's more about the like items and stuff that you're getting and upgrades and things rather than stat increases. So you feel a little less of that. But yeah, that would definitely be up there. And there's just so many other different types of games, I guess, that it's just hard for me to narrow it down to specific things. But if it comes to this type of character progression campaign, this might be the top one that I've played at least. For that type of a narrative campaign system. So yeah, cool. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. And again, next week should be the battle report, assuming everything goes well. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.